Hi there. You're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Back for another week.
Yeah, and I'm back this time. And thank you guys so much for acknowledging that I wasn't there last week.
Oh, did we not?
You did not.
No, I did at the end. Right at the end.
All right. Right at the end. But at the start, it was like business as usual. Let's just keep going. No one's going to notice. Who gives a fuck about Tom? And also that it was Submersible Week that I missed. Spewing.
Submersible Week.
I missed Submersible Week.
It's not like Shark Week. It's not part of our regular programming. It was a one-off event. Okay, that's not our fault.
I had so much to say about that. I had so much to say about the Logitech F710 that was controlling the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
I sold so many of those in my retail career, and they were fine.
So you're basically a submersible engineer, is what you're saying.
Lord knows how many submersibles I have inadvertently enabled by selling those to randos in fucking, southeastern suburbs, Melbourne. Big submersible town.
Bruz, I need a Logitech. What's it called?
The F710.
Bros, I need a F710 for gaming.
For personal use.
For personal use.
I'm getting into AR. I am augmenting my reality by making that reality under the sea.
Bros,
I mean, if you can do that.
I need 27 Logitech controllers from the mid-90s for no reason, please and thank you.
If you please, can do that with wireless. With a controller for a submersible submarine. I keep using the terms interchangeably. I mean, the next step, I guess, is just to have it for drones or for planes. I guess.
I think they already do. Yeah. I thought it's a thing of gaming controllers. I don't know specific brands, but I thought are quite often used in drone flying. Because I mean, if you're recruiting nerds. If you're recruiting gaming nerds over Twitch to the military, if the control scheme is one that they are already well acquainted with, that's fucking half the battle, right? So I'm only half joking. I reckon that's what they do.
Up, down, left, right, A, B, start. Blows up an entire Afghanistanian family.
The Konami code can completely destabilize the South American country.
It's this cheat code that immediately assassinates a dictator. From long distance with no civilian casualties. So it's pretty
the one thing before we get into the main story, because I missed Submersible Week, and there was just one thing I wanted to bring up about the Submersible story.
It's gone. It's done. Sorry, mate. You missed out. Okay. It's like the Suez Canal. Story's over, mate. It's not. We're never going back.
We've moved on. We're now talking.
Never gone back again.
Can you give me one? Can you give me one?
All right, I'll allow it. But watch yourself,
part of the story that I've not seen people talking about in the aftermath since, particularly now that we know that it imploded and, that everybody died, was that during that 96-hour window where everyone was counting down the minutes of oxygen they may or may not have had, when they started hearing, the noises, they started hearing sounds, picking up sound to be we hear a banging noise, could be them. They were hearing it at George, you're still on mute. But they were hearing it. That was a
great joke, and you missed it.
They were hearing it at 30-minute intervals, which some of the experts were saying that's standard procedure for if you, if you've lost contact or whatever in a submersible, make banging sounds on the hour and half hour like that, and that made them think, maybe we're hearing them. We found out it imploded, which leads me to think. Anyone else lose a submersible last week?
Is that the only one?
Hearing it at 30-minute intervals. And we all just went, well, it imploded. I guess we'll stop looking. I was like, well, then what the fuck were you hearing regularly? Yes, sounds happen in the ocean, but not every half hour on the hour and half hour.
It was a
lost submersible practice.
It was lost TikTokers doing that trend. The ba 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 ba, that trend where they're banging, and it's actually them, and then they become hot from the banging on the door. I don't quite understand.
We have
you've understood that.
No, because it's the ugly version where they bam 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 bam, and then they're on the other side of the same door, and then it's the hot version of themselves, and it's like someone's knocking the door from behind them. TikTok is wild.
Okay. You and I have very different TikTok algorithms.
No, I don't think we do, buddy.
I'm not aware of that trend at all. You could have made that up for the lols, for all I know.
Surely you've seen that trend.
The the point is, yeah, they just like they went, oh well, let's forget that we heard some banging noises that sounded a lot like a submersible that was lost. I don't know.
There was, anyway. I mean, without going too much further into it, there was the US government kind of just sort of said, yeah, we heard an implosion. And they're like, how did you hear an implosion?
Never mind.
Like,
don't
never
worry.
mind. We would do that. It's not a secret device that you had
Yeah, we don't have a secret embassy that we've built right next to the US under the water, listening to everything, unlike the Russians in Canberra. Also missed the biggest Canberra story that's happened in a while in my absence. Fuck, it was the worst week for me to be gone.
Packed up now. In a resolution to that story, the squatter has left.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, really fuck, I wouldn't want to be in a demountable fucking thing during that particular Canberra winter. Got to like -6 the other week. So yeah, fuck that noise. Anywho, let's get to this week. Do we want to start with, I guess, the person who like designed the shit that powers pretty much absolutely everything we use in our everyday lives died? Want to start with that little morbid story?
Yes. I think it's an uplifting story. We always talk.
Uplifting story. He died though.
He died in a hail of 100 years. No, he made it to 100 years. So John Goodenough, the world's oldest Nobel Prize winner, who helped pioneer lithium-ion batteries, which power all of our devices, has run out of battery cycles and has passed away at the age of 100 years old. So powered down for the last time.
Yep.
But
this is why you don't leave your John Goodenough's plugged in overnight. It's important not to leave them on the charge. You want to let them charge up to 80% and then slowly draw down throughout the day to minimize the number of cycles. Yeah. Or as soon as it hits 100%, take it off the power straight away. Mm-hmm. So as soon as he hit 100, they just pulled him straight off life support. Just unplug.
Yeah, that's there's an investigation about that ongoing, actually.
100%.
No, the reason I wanted to...
I just said that this was a really morbid story, and then
he started just
gags about pulling the plug on him.
You're not
because I'm a piece of shit.
Well, if he was battery powered, pulling the plug on him wouldn't have made any difference. No, this is a sad story. It's a sad, but it's an uplifting story, and we're not going to make jokes about a man who just died. So this
was about John Goodenough.
John Goodenough was, won a Nobel Prize at the age of, I think it was 97. For his work decades earlier on battery technology. So he shared the award with British-born American scientist M. Stanley Whittingham and Japan's Akira Yoshino and on John Goodenough. They all sort of played some part in putting together the battery technology that we all use today with lithium-ion batteries. But it's like this technology, we think, will be instrumental in, possibly saving the world. Like, this guy's kind of like it was a news story that he died, but I wouldn't say anyone necessarily knows him as like a household name.
I'd never heard of him.
But when we look back on this moment in 100 years from now, it's like, we managed to avoid global warming apocalypse. How do we do that? Solar cells and batteries. Like, this guy is possibly an important part of what's going to be our green future. So I just thought...
100%. I guess it's ironic because it means that John Goodenough was actually John Exemplary for his lifetime.
John definitely good enough.
Yeah. I know there's also... I know there's also, though, lithium-ion batteries have been quite revolutionary. They're powering all our phones, electric cars are using them, all that sort of stuff. But also... I'm fairly ignorant in this, but isn't also mining lithium one of the worst things ever? So I know there's that.
Well, I mean, he's not responsible for the mining of it.
No, but in terms of being hey, it's gonna save us all. It's it might also greatly cause bad stuff. So getting all the lithium.
Lithium mining is filthy. As well as cobalt, which is another ingredient that's important for these batteries. But and sort of the waste that happens when these batteries are spent, when they've gone through their maximum number of battery cycles and they need to be disposed of. That sort of leakage into the environment and stuff can be damaging. But the good thing about batteries compared to other fossil fuel technology, which we've used in the past, is that batteries, hopefully, presumably, once they're spent, they're contained in one area. The problem with fossil fuels is once you burn them, once you use them, they spread out into the atmosphere in a bunch of carbon particles that we're never able to retrieve. So yes, it's a problem that's created by lithium-ion batteries, but at least you can have responsible mining practices, which we can enforce. You can have all of the...
though, are they?
We could try.
Mines in Africa are currently being dug up with slave labor.
We could try, but I hate to tell you this, Adam. Fossil fuels might not be the sparkling bastion of high moral fortitude that you're anticipating.
It's not all roses with lithium.
No.
I think there are a lot of things that we haven't quite worked out how to mine that properly with,
but
sustainably without.
There's a difference between like figuring out sustainable mining.
DNA.
Figuring out sustainable mining practices versus like, let's burn fossil fuels and just watch the world end.
I would argue we have found probably the ways to sustainably mine lithium resources. Just that doesn't gel too well with the corporate fat cats and their giant cigars.
We just need to get the corporate fat cats excited about other kinds of revenue streams. Once that happens, then it'll be good. Anyway, so just wanted to bring up. Yeah, Mr. Goodenough was good enough after all.
Yeah, when you're next scrolling endlessly through people doing whatever the hell the door banging thing George was talking about before on TikTok is, you're probably doing it on something that John Goodenough directly contributed to.
Yeah.
So,
and let's
think about that.
Make sure you don't put him in landfill. Make sure you put him in one of those containers at the shopping centers where they recycle him, and make sure his body is disposed of correctly. So
yes. And that there's no swelling. Dear
no
God,
swelling,
if your John Goodenoughs or your lithium-ion batteries are swelling, you've got a problem.
Get out of it.
Don't ignore it.
Yeah, you got a real Note 7 situation on your hands.
And don't chuck them in water.
Speaking of getting chucked, former MP Daryl Maguire has been charged with giving false evidence to ICAC. So not only was he chucked out of the Liberal Party, he may also be chucked into a prison cell as a result of his dodgy dealings.
He's been charged with a bunch of stuff, and then they're recommending further charges. They're literally throwing the entire book at him, the 800-page. How long is this report? The report's like 500 pages or something. And this ICAC report from New South Wales. It is a hefty beast.
So for those who don't remember, Daryl Maguire was a former state MP for the Wagga Wagga area in New South Wales. And there was a controversy around 2 years ago when it emerged that he had been conducting a secret relationship with then Premier of New South Wales and world's saddest scarecrow, Gladys Berejiklian.
That's a new one.
Do you think she looks like a scarecrow?
She looks like the saddest scarecrow. So
I don't see Australia,
it.
George.
Well, Google it and Google sad scarecrow, and providing nothing pornographic turns up, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. So Daryl Maguire was in a 5-year relationship with Ms. Berejiklian, from 2015, and there was an inquiry that he participated in for ICAC into the Canterbury City Council in 2018. Now, during that ICAC hearing, it became clear that something was afoot with Mr. Daryl Maguire. And he ended up resigning as a result of that ICAC inquiry in 2018 from the Liberal Party. Now, they subsequently opened an investigation into him. They say, hey, something seems not quite right in this situation over here. They started investigating Mr. Daryl Maguire. So his phone was being tapped. And as a result, the relationship with Ms. Berejiklian was uncovered. And it has since emerged in the final report that was handed down this week that, not only was Daryl Maguire guilty of, or in the ICAC's findings were they said he was guilty of, serious corrupt practices. This is in relation to, certain building projects that he was set to get a cut from, as well as a cash for visas scheme, which is exactly what it sounds like. You give me cash, I'll get you a visa. He's been found to have committed serious corrupt activity, and Gladys Berejiklian has also been found to have been a part of That was the phrase that they used, was the seriously corrupt activity.
Yeah, so, I thought also just what's the word? Conflict of interest was the big one that they threw around as well, because I remember a lot of the phone calls and everything that were intercepted in that tapping seemed to also include a lot of language to the effect of, like, I don't need to know that. Like, shut up. Stop saying this into a phone.
Well, this is one of the things they've actually charged him with.
So to be clear, the ICAC doesn't charge. They recommend charges or not to the prosecution. So Daryl Maguire they have recommended charges to be taken up against him. But even though they said Berejiklian engaged in serious corrupt conduct and, quote, breaching the public trust, unquote, they haven't recommended charges against her, which is interesting. It's like,
look at that hangdog expression.
She's learned her lesson by going on to be a highly paid executive over at Optus. She gets it.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say was that, so he has been charged with basically giving false evidence at that ICAC hearing because of that. Yeah, well, I mean, it's all part of the same thing. But so he gave that evidence and that thing you talked about before, where they played the phone recordings. They basically asked him, "Did you do any of this stuff?" And he was like, "No, deny." And then they, the next day or however long.
Is this a photo of you doing the thing?
Yeah.
They then played that evidence. So he was charged, about a month ago with basically, providing false or misleading evidence. And then what they're going to potentially charge him with now basically falls under, I'm going to try and find it, misuse of office is kind of what is the bar they're going with. Now, there is quite a lot of stuff, as George said, that he's guilty of. He's allegedly guilty of. But I guess the difference between the two is that while Mr. Maguire, like, it's very obvious that he was doing all this stuff with Gladys Berejiklian, the evidence that points towards her isn't what they would call enough. It doesn't reach the standard for a criminal prosecution. So there's a bunch, and I think this is part of the reason why the report was so delayed. There's a lot of criticism around how long it took them to actually release this report.
It was two years ago that she stepped down because she was being investigated as part of this ICAC inquiry. So it's taken a good long time to get to this point.
And part of the reason is because they were literally trying to get through some of the legal, the legal reasons in terms of what they could and couldn't potentially recommend and what would stick and what wouldn't stick. They're actually looking at now, there's been discussions this week and both sides are agreeing to this, to actually try and legislate that they have to deliver the report within a certain time frame because it just took too long. And what they're also saying is for these charges they're recommending for Daryl Maguire, it could take another 2 years for that to resolve because of the seriousness of what they're potentially going to throw at him.
Yeah, justice is swift, as they say.
Yeah. So, I'm assuming Friendly Geordie's
Friendly Geordie's is going to have a feel. He's just coming his pants so hard right now.
I reckon the last couple days have just been a blur for him. It's just like, I blacked out. Like, what happened? Like,
Barilaro had to pay 10 grand for that cameraman's camera that he destroyed and in the not assault. And it's both Gladys and Daryl Maguire have had serious corrupt conduct findings against them. It's a good day to be a Friendly Geordie, I think.
I mean, he was the one that really sort of, I guess, he didn't blow it wide open, but he was definitely one of the ones that was
that sort of popularized it.
He didn't let up. Yeah, he didn't let up on the topic. So
there's a movie in there somewhere.
And I think independent media, like Friendly Geordies, has definitely been. Yeah, we'll get like a she said, but it's Friendly Geordie calling people stooge instead of the New York Times reporting on Harvey Weinstein. So it's important to note that like independent media, like Friendly Geordies, was responsible for beating the drum, because I think the instinctual response from the mainstream media was to be like, "Oh, poor Gladys," like you said, Tommy. Tommy. They're like, oh,
You've
look.
never called me Tommy before.
No, I've never. Oh, Tommy. That's why it was strange coming out of my brain just then. It was like, yeah, the response from the media, like you said, was like, oh, look, she's learned her lesson. Poor Gladys got involved with the wrong boy. She likes bad boys. Gladys great. Like, we all agree. Gladys is fantastic. But she just got involved with the wrong guy. It's like, no. She, as we can see from this concluded report, engaged in corrupt conduct by approving grants that went to places that benefited her secret boyfriend, which she should have disclosed and didn't disclose, in a way that was not transparent, in a way that abused the public trust and abused the public coin purse. That is corrupt behavior. Okay, just because it's for a Riverina Conservatorium of Music, like that does, like whether it's for that or for something else, it's completely irrelevant. Like you funneled money. You had a non-competitive tender process and you said this money should go there. I've told this, you covered for your mates, your people close to you, and funneled money towards them, even though that's where it didn't deserve to go. And that's corrupt behavior. So it's not just like, oh, she was abused it was coercive control from a terrible man. It's like, no, you're one of the most powerful people in the country. Okay. You can say no to your former boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like
it really does her a disservice in that sense of being like, oh, she like, no, if it's
all
poor
like, little helpless Gladys,
person, it's like
such a fucking dumb idiot little baby, didn't know what she was doing. Like,
she's an adult, she's a person, she's capable of making her own decisions and judgment.
Oh, she was a little baby. She was only a mere 52 years of age when it happened.
Yes, I remember this cover shoot. The woman who saved Australia.
From the
for anyone who isn't seeing the stream or anything like that, it's the Financial Review magazine cover.
This was in what, May 2020?
It was during 2020, right?
Yeah.
During like the height of the pandemic, and
it was her response to lockdowns, and
where there was a big,
she was the best.
Yeah, there was a big, again, like the Sydney-Melbourne rivalry always being a thing. They were like, oh, let's have it off as to which premier's handling the pandemic the best. They're like, can we not?
The thing was like, even that was a beat up, I thought, because the Ruby Princess, was responsible for half the initial COVID spread in Australia. I don't know. I mean, you could argue that was a federal mistake, but anyway, it's just one of those things where
she had her, the things that she did well in the pandemic, there were things she didn't do well. It was an unprecedented situation. I'm kind of like loath to judge her on those terms because I kind of feel like every premier that was premier at the time was just kind of like making it up as they went along. But this stuff about, funding
corrupt conduct.
Funneling money to Wagga Wagga when it didn't deserve it over and above other things that did deserve it is pork barreling. And she said as much. She says, oh, like everyone pork barrels, like it's not a big deal sort of thing. Like, I think I'm sorry if you
slam dunk you think it is.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you personally liked her or whatever, but clearly she willfully misled the voters and didn't register this relationship, lied and said it wasn't a significant relationship, and that's why I didn't report it. They were together for 5 years. Okay, they were talking about getting married and that sort of stuff.
Like if you hear her say that, and your Daryl was being like, "No, this wasn't significant." Like we were together for 5 years.
Yeah, she then got up and lied about the characterization of this relationship. And then it turns out, she was, and then he was admitting corrupt dealings to her. And she says on the phone, oh, I don't need to know about that. Like she was either willfully ignorant or deliberately tried to avoid contact and knowing too much about what she thought were his plausibly corrupt dealings. So
I think the real winners out of this whole situation are the PR firms they both employed to digitally smooth over.
That's a great two-year contract. That's great. That's fantastic.
To deal with the fallout.
Yeah.
And she hasn't faced any consequences. She's gone on to be a highly paid executive over at Optus. So I don't think it's true that she's like, oh, she's learned her lesson. And so therefore, we don't need to have any kind of any kind of criminal proceedings against her because she was completely corrupt and got away with it. And everyone's like, oh, poor Gladys, look at her, she's so sad. Oh, haven't we all had a nasty boyfriend? It's like, no, you're missing the point.
Yeah, she resigned because she was just, she was doing too good a job.
Too
basically.
good.
Yeah, too good. Yeah.
She resigned against every instinct in her body, apparently, I think was the words she used when she made the announcement.
Well, I mean,
which is probably not a good thing either.
I was thinking, to her credit, if she was deciding to not listen to her instincts for once, when clearly I imagine, was she listening to her instincts in all those other decisions?
Yeah,
in which case, you did the right thing to fight all those instincts in your body, Gladys.
She didn't mention anything about fighting those instincts in her body when she was pillow talking with Daryl Maguire about his corrupt business deals. That she wasn't fighting any instincts there. But there was this weird exchange where he was saying like, even when I'm still the boss, like I'm sort of running things, and she's like, you are the boss, baby. Like, it was so fucking weird.
Yeah, and there was the phrasing of like, is like, yeah, but I'm the boss. She's like, yeah, no, I know that. And that's
I know
why
that.
It was weird to switch it on, like, because I think she was talking about, publicly being the premier or whatever. She has she's the figure of authority, right? So to say like, yeah, when I had to switch over to being the boss, it felt weird, like it was naughty. I was like, what the fuck is this phone call, and why are we aware of it?
Why am I rock hard while this is happening?
Why do I have to know that this happened?
How did they get the recordings? I don't even...
Because Maguire... No, because Maguire was being phone tapped because of what went down in his 2018 hearing.
Yeah.
And then they heard him on the phone with someone, and it's like, bro, is that Gladys fucking Berejiklian?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Being the policeman, just like sitting there, listening to it, being like...
Yeah, just tapping the guy next to you. Bro, get the boss.
Yeah.
Get the boss now.
Sitting there being like, oh man, I've been like, geez, what have they got you working on? Oh, I'm just on Wagner MP chatter. Like, just, geez, that's my assignment right now. Wait a minute, is that the fucking Premier of New South Wales?
Well, the treasurer, I think it would have been.
Oh, treasurer at the time. Yeah. But like...
Same
Whoa,
thing.
hang on a minute.
Yeah, but I am the boss even when you're the premier. I know, so therefore it's hard when I had to switch it around.
Yeah,
Glad,
switch it around.
Even when you are the premier, I am the boss, all right? Yes, I know. What the fuck?
Oh,
so weird. Meanwhile, all feminists just like die inside.
Yeah. It's every time Daryl Maguire comes, a feminist loses her wings.
That is... God, that is just some god-awful dirty talk as
That's
well.
terrible. That's worse than the Prince Charles tampon talk. This is terrible.
Is it dirty talk, or is it just like literally him being like, no, like it's actually like a manipulative? Maybe it's both. I don't know.
Maybe. I guess I haven't heard the recording, so I haven't heard the tone in their voices.
Oh, yeah.
My initial impression was that the tone sounded like a bit of a... I don't know, like given with the context of they were in a relationship, blah, 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 I assumed it was sexy talk.
Tom, listen, can I do some sexy talk to you right now?
And
I'm going to say...
Please, I've waited years for this.
Finally.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
France has deployed 45,000 police onto the streets of Paris.
Oh, ACAB includes them, though.
What? Say again?
ACAB includes them, though. That's a real boner killer.
ACAB? What?
All cops are bastards? You haven't heard the expression ACAB?
I'm not familiar with that.
You have never heard the term ACAB?
I don't know what to tell you.
Fuck the news story there. How have you not heard that?
I don't mix in these revolutionary circles like you, Tom.
How did you make it through? Sorry, hang on.
Okay.
How did you make it through the 2020 protests following George Floyd's death and not come in, like, bump into someone saying ACAB?
I don't know, mate. I wasn't on fucking Robespierre Twitter, all right? I wasn't trying to destroy the system.
What?
I
am frankly astounded.
Middle-aged suburban man living in Melbourne, and that just passed me by.
I am astounded.
You're the kind.
Wow.
We're the kind of people who would become cops, Tom. Of course, ACAB didn't get to us.
Oh God!
Of
I was
course.
like, is that a reference to like Aladdin or something? It sounds like it could be something from.
Adam was just smiling and nodding, just being like, "Yep, I get it. I
like
get what the kids are saying."
Reference, yeah, like Sinbad, ACAB. Maybe it's the white.
No, ACAB was Aladdin's monkey, I think.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Anyway.
You've broken my brain. Anyway, what did happen this week? Yes, Adam, you're absolutely right. France is deploying 45,000 police to tackle some riots that are going on in Paris at the moment. I mean, riots in Paris?
It sounds like every 2 years
lately. The French know how to like fight back against something ridiculous. They don't like.
I am shocked.
Every 2 years.
I say shocked to find rioting in this Paris.
Yeah.
Every 2 years, it's like, I often think, I'm like, like France seems like a nice place. Like everyone seems like they're probably
go down to Bordeaux, get a nice wine, get some cheese,
some culture, and then
snap up some baguettes.
And then every 2 years there's this reminder that like, oh yeah, these are the guys that like had like 3 or 4 revolutions.
We're not gonna take it.
I love it. You say every 2 years. This is like the second time this has happened this year.
Yeah.
At least that I'm aware of, because we talked about it a while back when Macron, President Macron was wanting to change how pensions worked and when you could start working in France, and they fucking set streets on fire.
Very interesting. Yep. You have raised the retirement age to 67. Oh, this is very interesting. Have you tried burning everything down?
Yeah, that is a lovely world's most romantic city you have there.
Be a shame if something happened to it.
Shame if all the bins caught fire. But no, so what's happened recently though, I'm not fully up on the details of how it occurred, but a teenager was shot and killed by police in France. So there's been some big riots. Yeah, okay, during a traffic stop. Yeah. There's been riots following that. People are fed up with that. And it's going a bit crazy. There's photos in here of like, buses having been like torched. When the French throw a riot, they throw a riot. But
they know how to party. What can I say?
That's true. But the part that struck me about this, which I thought was incredible, I haven't seen someone pull out this political line in quite a long time. President Macron decided to blame the rioters' behavior on video games. Haven't heard that one in a while, where politicians just whipping out what's wrong with people. Video games, those wigwams they're all spending their time on, their Super Nintendos.
It's not that I have a profound sense of social justice and I'm willing to take to the streets for just about any fucking reason whatsoever. No. I recently downloaded this game. It's called Grand Theft Auto, and now I'm fucking crazy.
It's
burn it all down.
So Macron was commenting on that there was a bunch of the protesters. I think the stat that he pulled out was something like a third of the people arrested over a few nights of the riots were young or very young people, and saying that the children involved or teenagers involved have all been, his words were, I guess this is translated, but intoxicated by video games, and that their parents should be making sure they're not out at night rioting. And it just breaks my brain just for them to think, it's the video games doing it. It's not the video games. 2/3 of the other people, presumably who are adults, flipping over cars and burning shit and influencing their behavior. It's the video games.
No, it's not the systemic corruption within the police system that has a habit of particularly focusing on people of color and systemically abusing minorities. No. It can't be a visceral reaction from the collective unconscious of the populace to being consistently pushed down and oppressed, coming up and flaring up all at once as a result of a single person that's emblematic of their struggle being put to death unfairly. It can't be that. It's got to be the video games.
No, it's the damn Fortnite.
It's the bloody Apex Legends. You seen the frame rates on these games? Hyper realistic. Yeah, they're doing ray tracing. They're doing AR. They're doing VR. They're doing all sorts of shit in these video games. They're going to kill everything now.
It's just bananas. Like, I thought we were past this, and it just seemed like it was the no video game connection at all. Like, I was just like, wait a minute, this isn't like the stories when you find out a school shooter loved playing Doom or whatever, where at least they like tangentially connect them together just to do a bad faith argument. But he was just like, video games. No one was talking about video games. None of the kids have said that they're out there because they love video games. Like, no, they're rioting because a teenager was killed.
How about this, Tom? How about rather than taking your concern seriously, we miss the point entirely and make it about video games?
Excellent. Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It's been interesting because he said this about 3 days into the riots. So his initial reaction, I think, was actually pretty good. When he visited Beside, basically said that we need to do better and was very sort of apologetic. And I think after literally a lot of things started to burn down, I think he started to sort of change his tone a bit, including obviously ramping up the number of police responding, which, I mean, so to what happened, and part of the reason why it got sort of out of control is the incident happened, someone died, and the police initially said, he tried to run down 2 officers, but then there was someone filming it.
I saw the footage.
That's not what happened.
There was someone filming it, so this happened afterwards.
Yeah.
The 2 cops were standing at the side of the car. One of them was pointing a gun at the driver, and then as the driver accelerated,
he pulled away. Yeah.
He pulled away. They laid a couple of shots into him, and he crashed down the road. Now, I guess, as George said, the problem with Paris or France in general, and to be fair, this problem is starting to, I guess, rear its head in lots of places around Europe with mass migration from different parts of the world, particularly, I guess the thing with France is that, there's that really, that's a European French culture. And then what a lot of countries are struggling with is, well, how do you bring in and how do you adapt, when you have mass migration from other areas, how do you sort of put these two things together? And I guess part of the problem is there are lots of areas in Paris and other parts of France they've got a real sort of mix of migrants and other different types of cultures and stuff that are, I guess, known to police, for lack of a better term. And so the police then react. What's what I'm looking for? They police those areas aggressively. They over-police it. Thank you. Which I think is part of the angst with this whole situation. So, as to how you get out of this, I don't know. I think at some point it'll probably just die down. But I think the underlying reasons for this probably go a lot deeper and are harder to really put a finger on. I think the same problem exists in a lot of other parts of Europe as well.
It is interesting, though, that across the Western world, there are issues with police brutality, right? And police abuse. It's not just like, this is an America thing. This is an Australia thing with Indigenous deaths in custody. It's like, no, this is a worldwide problem that we have.
How many times do you have to say, this is just a this place thing, when you realize that a lot of places have a just their place thing that looks the same?
That looks exactly the same. Hey, it's just an insert place here thing. It is striking to me that the issues around police brutality and police conduct are not just in America, not just in the Deep South, not just here in Australia. They're in France. This is a consistent problem that exists with ceding authority to absolute authority for the deadly use of force to a particular group in society without doing it thoughtfully. Like, we need to have proper design thinking solutions. Like, it seems like everywhere is struggling with this problem as to how to design police departments to avoid things like this happening. And to make sure that
there's a larger question there of how do you when you have mass migration, which is happening at the moment.
I don't think it's fair to really lay it at the feet of mass migration, because but
what I'm saying is that this also creates class issues as well.
There's all pre-existing tensions and stuff there. But I guess what I'm saying is these issues exist in places that haven't had a large influx of migrants as well. They exist here in Australia. They exist elsewhere. Like, I think we just need to be, as a culture, as countries generally, it seems like everyone needs to be a little bit more thoughtful as to how we deploy police, how we train police, how we use a bit of design thinking to design systems where naked aggression is not just the default go-to, as it seems to be in a lot of police departments around the world, right? This is not just like a particular country's problem. This is a much wider societal problem that we seem to have.
The other thing with France as well is that a lot of the policing in that area, given there's been a few terrorist attacks and other bits and pieces in France and similar countries around the area, and I guess as a result of that, you see if you go to Paris, everyone's walking around with machine guns. Like there are, no, I'd say everyone, a lot of police are more heavily armed than they would be, say, here in Australia, for instance, right? But I think part of that is that, there is the way the police have been probably trained over the last 10 years is that, there's a significant terrorist threat and everyone's a potential, everyone is a potential threat, right? And as soon as you start to change the police mindset, and this is probably the same thing for the US because everyone's potentially armed, as soon as you create a fear in the person's eyes that there is a potential threat there and that there is a risk, they are going to react in a different way than if they're trained differently, I guess. So I think
I guess just
how do you
training police departments to not just immediately respond with deadly force as the go-to option. Like that's...
Well, and also probably canvassing when you're hiring and stuff as well, like having different processes to weed out some of like the gung-ho cowboy trigger-happy people.
Yeah. Well, this is the other thing. I read an article the other day, is that there was basically that the far right have effectively started to infiltrate police forces across Europe over the last sort of 10 years or so.
Well, we remember that story, in the German special forces, something X, what was it? Where it was a right-wing, like paramilitary plot to like infiltrate the secret services, like overthrow the German government. It was like didn't go anywhere, but it was like still a thing that happened.
Yeah, they were thinking about it.
So we can't rest in our laurels, I guess. But it's
not.
I mean, it could be worse. You could be Russia.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of maybe trying to overthrow the government, Russia.
Yeah, so we talked about last week about the failed coup or whatever it was that
failed March for Justice.
Failed March for Justice.
I think that's the official line from Wagner, isn't it?
I think if you're the Kremlin, you're probably calling it more of a potential mutiny, I think is the word phrasing that you're using. At the time, I think last week we were saying that this was something that was pretty reactionary, that, something happened and Prigozhin just reacted to it. That was my take on it. Turns out that was completely wrong. There's evidence pointing that this was premeditated significantly and to the point where the Western, like the US and, the Five Eyes intelligence guys, they all had the intel that this was going to go down before the Russians did. And allegedly, the reason why it all sort of went very quickly was because someone in the Kremlin or in the FSB or whatever found out, and they had to bring up their timeline pretty suddenly.
It kind of sounds like Prigozhin was ringing around going, so should we do a bit of a coup? And just like ringing around all his mates. It's like having a WhatsApp group,
I'd love those conversations, like starting off fairly normal, being like, hey Vasily,
buddy.
how you doing?
Good,
how
bro.
the kids?
How you doing,
Oh,
man?
that's great. Yeah, wonderful. Hey, quick question. You want a coup?
It's funny you should ask because I was thinking of doing a coup.
Doing a coup. Nice. Next week? Next week
I'm busy.
Yeah, right. Need to plan longer, probably too. 6
Flights
months
are just crazy at the moment. So if we look, let's pencil it in for August.
Yep. All right. Great.
We'll see how we go.
Oh shit! I think Putin knows.
I'm going to tell.
Go!
I'm going to tell all 37 of my closest friends.
So the Kremlin's reaction has been basically to portray the whole thing as they've been really working hard on optics. They've been getting Putin out in front of people, trying to make him look, like his stable government, everything's good here. But allegedly behind the scenes, the term purge is being thrown around a lot by Western media.
That's always a good sign.
Has really great historical connotations for the Russian
purges in particular aren't good.
So it's not The Purge, the seminal film.
No.
It's oh boy. Oh boy.
So what they've said is that there's this general who was the head of, deputy commander of Russia's military operations in Ukraine, General Sergei Surovikin, who has just disappeared.
Well, watch out if you're in an apartment balcony window. Watch out.
And there are
you were saying, like, on the last episode, I was listening to it while I was doing my grocery shopping, and you said, oh yeah, they'll just hang out over a nice glass of Novichok, and I burst out laughing in the middle of a Coles. But it seems like, no, like, you were joking. It seems like that, like, your people are vanishing.
The deputy head of the deputy president or vice president of one of Russia's banks literally fell from a window 2 days ago.
Great.
Like,
bro, these clumsy fucking oligarchs, they need to put some rubber soles on their shoes, because they are just slipping and sliding all around these fucking oligarchs. What is clumsy fucking oligarchs these guys are? Honestly.
They need vertigo medication.
Honestly, stay on the ground floor. Send someone up. You don't need to be on you don't ever need to be on the top floor of any building if you're an oligarch in Russia. I just ground floor apart, just ground for everything. I've got a basement apartment. I can't even fall out
from their neighbors' third-story apartment window. It's not even their own. So yeah, what they're saying now is that Putin's effectively cleaning house within the military to sort of work out who was potentially
behind this.
Yeah, and what they're saying is Surovikin probably did know about it. But publicly he was like, denouncing it, but allegedly he had advance warning of it and didn't tell anyone. So there are, I don't know of many others, but there are allegedly, the mill bloggers are saying everyone's starting to disappear now.
I mean, this is what happens when you have a failed coup attempt, right? Like that's that line: if you shoot at the king, you best not miss, right? Because if you do and he finds out who you are, you and all your buddies are fucked. And like we were joking about before, but this is like exactly what was happening in early communist Russia. Was there were all these like power struggles and purges and people trying to take out other people and all this sort of stuff.
Getting like killed in wherever he was, Argentina or Brazil or something.
There's a great satirical movie. I think it was written by Armando Iannucci of Veep fame.
The Death of Stalin,
called The Death of Stalin, which is about this sort of period in Stalinist Russia history. Now it's done as a black comedy, as a satirical thing, but
it's a farce. Like they're all like fools and tripping over each other, trying to coup each other.
Yeah, but it's all about exactly this kind of Russian history where they're all trying to take each other out and trying to get power. Like it just shows how it's not unusual, I guess, in Russia for this sort of thing to happen, but it is
weird that it's happening. It's sort of like history repeating itself a little bit.
Yeah, it's. I kind of feel like Russia is a too big country. You know what I mean? Like it's too big to be one country. It should be like 10 countries.
It's the Russian Federation of a bunch of federated states.
But that's what, like it's kind of like it's such a large, diverse country with so many different cultural, ethnic groups, different languages, different. You look at Russians from, Kamchatka in the Far East.
Yeah.
And you look at Russians from the south, like adjacent to Mongolia, and it's like a completely different culture. Like, it's like, how is this all in the one country? I just feel like it's so big and so diverse. It's just ungovernable by any one government, any one person.
It was pretty funny the other day where, I mean, this is a separate thing. Basically, there was some dude who abused a Quran in front of an embassy in Sweden, because they're having their final rounds of discussions about joining NATO. Anyway, so obviously they're allowed to do that. Like the police okayed the protest and then arrested him afterwards. Anyway, point being was Putin then, like hours later, was shown rocking up to like some Orthodox or like some. No, it was an Islamic. That's right. It was an Islamic. What do they call them? Mosque. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Mosque. And then he's literally holding the Quran, being like, so unlike some other countries, that this is, not a crime. This is definitely a crime in Russia. I was like, oh my God, the optics of him they're just trying to get him round to like increase support, rile the base up. Let's go. And is insane. They are very good at what they do at the I don't know, the KGB or whatever the fuck. I don't know, Russian media
FSB.
FSB.
Yeah, I thought the KGB are gone, right? Well, gone.
The KGB never gone. KGB only in hiding.
GRU, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, Russia's the whole thing is still a shit show. But
yeah, that's wow, that's positively terrifying.
Do you guys think? I know none of us are sort of like foreign policy experts or anything like that, but three dudes with a potty, let's go.
That won't stop us banging on about it for a decade.
Do you think there is a real chance that Russia could fall apart under Vladimir Putin? Like that there's a real chance that there could be some sort of coup or overthrow? It does sound like there's a couple of coups in the works, is what the coups have been greenlit by Netflix, and we're going to start seeing some seasons drop. I think at some point. From
my perspective of completely not understanding like any of the nuances really of what's going on, I'd imagine, especially from the perspective of the invasion of Ukraine, it's only going to end really two ways, right? Either there's a coup in Russia or there's a world war, right? Like, because if Russia just takes over Ukraine, that's not just going to be the end of it, right? And then on the flip side, if Ukraine pushes back against Russia, then there'll probably be a power struggle within Russia, and then we have coup ending. But so it either gets a lot bigger or Putin's ousted. I don't see just like a holding pattern of like, the war stops and then Putin stays as he is and we're all good, no take backsies.
Unless Putin has a drastic change of mind, and then sort of folds his cards where they are, or gives back. I mean, as Tom said, it's one of those things where it's like the only way to probably really seriously complete a coup in Russia is to have a decent control over the military. Which Prigozhin allegedly was trying to sound out. But, without there being a crippling civil war, I think, you'd have to have a lot of the military commanders on side, probably a lot of these oligarchs as well. And the only way that would happen is if the war starts to go really bad for Russia and... without Putin relenting and just folding his chips in, not going quietly potentially. So
something on that, I've been hearing that a lot of these private military contractors are sort of like recruiting their own. A lot of these companies, rather, like big Russian oligarch companies, are sort of recruiting their own private military contractors to kind of like, hey, we just want our own little private army just in case shit goes sideways.
We talked about it last week. The largest one has 50,000 people.
Yeah, as just like a person's private army, which is nuts.
Yeah, that's bananas. And also, to put in context, so the French have nearly just deployed one of those armies to deal with the riots going on, right? 45,000. Like, Jesus.
Literally.
That kind of puts that in perspective, right? That's like, fucking, how many Urukai were they meant to be at Helm's Deep? 10,000?
Yeah.
And remember how that sounded like massive? Like, what a battle.
Well, that was a small one.
Yeah, that was wow.
I think the other thing is the longer the war goes on and the more Russia drains through their military resources, the less of that what am I trying to say? The operating sort of structure and the people and the house of cards, so to speak, that Putin's built up over 20 years. The more of those people die, quit, whatever, disappear.
Take a little slippy slip off a balcony.
Then the weaker that house of cards becomes, obviously, right? Yeah. And then the whole thing could come tumbling down. But yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, he's not stupid, old Putin.
Yeah, not stupid, just crazy.
Speaking of crazy, actually, that's a good way to segue to our next one. Bolsonaro, Brazil's former president, has been barred from office until 2030. By
you're doing a good job when you're banned from doing it for 7 years.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Not only have we fired you in a democratic sense, we've decided not to elect you. You're not allowed to have your job back for nearly a decade.
Mr.
That's how
Kaczynski,
you were doing.
Mr. Kaczynski, you've been doing a great job at the post office, and that's why you can never send any packages through the mail again.
Ever again.
Ever again, Mr.
Is
Unabomber.
that a Unabomber? Yeah, I'll say Ted Bundy.
yeah.
No, it's not Ted Bundy. But,
No,
anyway.
Ted Bundy was Ted Bundy.
Yeah, Ted Bundy was Ted Bundy.
Ted
Kaczynski?
Ted Kaczynski was the
Ted
Unabomber.
Kaczynski,
Yeah.
different Ted.
Yeah.
Different Teds, still both bad people.
Yeah.
So it was Brazil's Supreme Electoral Court. It's interesting they have a separate court for the electoral system, but
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Pretty good thing.
Yeah.
5 out of 7 justices voted to convict Bolsonaro, and which is hilarious because, for reference, everyone, Bolsonaro was basically the Trump-esque president who came into power after Trump and then left power after Trump. But it feels like Brazil have come to this they're still working out a mistakes, like whether or not to like they've only just started charging Trump for various things, and this thing will play out for another 3 years in the US. Whereas Brazil is they've just filed the charges, they sat down, they decided, and they just released a judgment in like the space of less than a year. Get you a justice system as efficient, as effective as checks notes Brazil. Okay. Yeah, so that's probably a good thing. Bolsonaro he's a
not a great guy.
Yeah,
not a great guy. I mean, he straight up said the whole thing of, I won't accept the election results. Very similar to Trump when that was all going down. But yeah, probably for the best.
The charge they got him with was that he, for abuse of power and misuse of the media last year, when he summoned ambassadors to vent unfounded claims about Brazil's electronic voting system, which sounds very familiar.
No, this is what a weird story. I've never heard anything like this before.
No, wow, real trailblazer.
Bolsonaro has denied any wrongdoing and described the decision as a stab in the back.
Can I just say, I know innocent until proven guilty. But whenever someone has to deny wrongdoing, it definitely seems like, when there's smoke, there's wrongdoing. That's kind of what it is. I've never had to deny any wrongdoing. You know what I mean? When it comes to any of my jobs, any of my professional engagements, Mr. Tipos has denied any wrongdoing. It's never happened. Hasn't happened.
I guess the question is, will he still be around in 2030 to run for president again? Or will he want to?
Well, it's probably going to be too busy being Trump's vice president, I think, by the sounds of it.
I mean, the second question, Adam, he'll definitely want to, I imagine. It wouldn't be a punishment otherwise, right? It's not a punishment to be barred from running for president for 7 years if you're like, nah, I won't want to do it by then.
Yeah, he's. I think it was a nice little thing for the week. I was like, oh, look, the system works. The system's working. It's okay.
Well, the system occasionally works, but when it does work, it doesn't work for the reasons you expect.
Speaking of systems not working for the reasons that they were expecting, Twitter. Hot off the presses. This is a Today story, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, and I don't understand it. So you're gonna have to explain Twitter to me, and then Adam, tell me what's happened.
Twitter's where everyone hops and just shares their crazy, wild opinions and furry porn, just willy nilly. Especially since Tumblr collapsed, it was a lot of people's only outlet for their weird proclivities in crazy cosplay and drawings. Recently bought by everyone's favorite moron, Elon Musk.
I think I'm starting to understand why our algorithms are showing us different things, Tom.
Yes.
Just a brief little insight into your search history there. Thanks for that.
Yeah, you're seeing weird banging on door memes. I'm looking at tig old biddies on that Twitter.
Is that what it's meant to be for? I thought it was a micro-blogging platform. I'm very confused.
Well, what are they blogging, Adam? What do you think they're blogging if not pornography?
It is funny because Twitter is one of the big social media platforms that ironically hasn't had as much of an issue with pornography being shared on. So you've got adult film stars, building a following and tweeting images and videos and that sort of stuff in order to send traffic to their OnlyFans.
Well, and there's no restriction on nudity and all that
because there's no restriction. Unlike Instagram, which is I heard Instagram was had recently unofficially taken down the ban to removed nipples, like had just kind of like quietly freed the nipple.
Instagram after a little hiatus?
Have we successfully freed the nipple? I thought that would have been bigger news.
I think they would I think they're just trying to like stealth that information through. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, I remember hearing something about that.
I will search that vigorously.
I'll do a lot of research.
Whether or not it's true. Anyway, so what's going on with Twitter now, Adam? So Elon Musk bought it and has been making dumb decision after dumb decision for the past couple of years. Or has it been 1 year? Fuck, this has been a long year. And recently people have been reporting that there were issues with viewing tweets on Twitter, which isn't good. Like just reporting it, like just things of like, oh, why aren't tweets refreshing or all this sort of stuff. People thought it was the platform broken, et cetera, et cetera. And jumping to action, Elon announced that there were going to be limits to how many tweets users can view in a day.
Not make.
And on top
view in a day.
Yeah, not make, like read. And then on top of that, this would be different depending on whether or not you were a verified user or an unverified user. And part of one of Elon's big decisions since taking over Twitter was to make verification something that you can pay for. So it's not necessarily just,
it's not even
purpose
it's
of
not even
verifying
unlimited
people.
if you're
It's not
paying.
unlimited for verified. It's 6,000 tweets a day. If you're a verified account, you can read 6,000 tweets a day. An unverified account, it's 600 tweets a day. And if you are a new unverified user, I don't know what counts as new, but 300 posts a day. And then it says like, no, you can't get any more tweets. Come back tomorrow.
Rate limit exceeded is what it said.
Everyone's a bit like,
Marlboro says, you've had enough cigarettes for today. Come back tomorrow.
Like, there's not only that, but then, so Musk has called this like a temporary emergency measure because the concern that he's talking about is around all the data on Twitter being scraped by things like, ChatGPT, AI, all that sort of stuff. So trying to limit the amount of traffic hitting, I presume it's their API endpoints or like the servers and all that sort of stuff. That's real basic sort of IT jargon rather than essentially like too many calls to Twitter to get new tweets. And they think the best way to do that, to limit that, is to give people daily viewing limits, which is rather silly for power users of Twitter. But also, you're trying to sell ad space?
Yeah, you want people to come and use this platform as much as possible in order to get them to pay for advertising to be on this page where people can see it. So if you're limiting how much people can see.
How many tweets do you guys look at a day?
Well, I've never counted it. And so far, I haven't hit the 600 limit. So I guess
I hit the
600.
I hit the 600 limit, I would say, pretty quickly.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. Okay. See, I haven't hit the limit yet. I haven't spent that much time on Twitter today, though.
It's weird because it doesn't seem to like tick over for the day. It's like wait and try again later. And if you try later in the day, it'll
let you do it again.
You'll get more tweets. So it's kind of like you're getting drip fed. The whole thing is so monumentally dumb. It's just like it's like you're trying to ruin this place for us.
He is like so many things that Musk has done has been very, very stupid. But it just seems like we got to solve this. Too many calls scraping data. All right, we limit views. That solves that problem. It's like, but you haven't thought anything beyond that.
Elon Musk is the king of thinking one step ahead. He's really good at thinking exactly one and no further than one step ahead at all times.
Yeah.
What's crazy is that by shutting things down in this way, you're essentially Twitter is DDoSing itself. I saw someone talking about this online earlier, where it's like, by shutting down a bunch of these sources of traffic, what you're then doing is by having unregistered users trying to call information that is now no longer available to them, it's doing API calls for this information. And because it's not getting the response back, it's just continuing to call.
Trying again and again.
So it's not like they've created the mechanisms to like properly sort of shut all this down. They've just kind of like just turned things off at the spigot.
Yeah, that's funny. It's half solved the problem in the sense of like,
they're DDoSing. They're DDoSing themselves as a result of all these extra requests coming from themselves to themselves that aren't going anywhere. It's just so dumb.
DDoSing stands for distributed denial of service, for anyone who doesn't know.
It's
where a repeated, like when your infrastructure gets overloaded to the point of shutting down.
It's like when you get one of those sort of people who are rocking up at your door trying to sell advertising, and it's like it just keeps happening.
Yeah, but there's 40,000 trying to cram through your door at the same time.
And what's funny though
is just 40,000 Jehovah's Witnesses going, "Have you heard the word of the good Lord?"
And I guess further of what they've done then is that they've locked the front door and are no longer answering it.
Yeah, but there's still just waves of Jehovah's Witnesses, just wave after wave of Jehovah's Witnesses, like World War Z, crashing into the doors.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of the noise, and it still might knock your house down. Yeah. But they aren't getting the information though. They aren't getting your immortal soul.
But the pizza delivery guy who wants to come and also use the front door, he can't get in because
he can't get in.
Not unless he pays $8 a month.
Yeah, yeah.
The man's a business genius.
Oh yeah, no one's allowed to say that ever again.
I don't know. I mean, Starship's going to have its next launch in a couple of
how can you possibly still defend Elon Musk? Like, I get you'd love your Star-Lord, fucking, your spaceships and whatever, but you can't possibly defend the person Elon Musk as well. Like, the man is just. He's just
absolute
a loser.
Moron.
He's such a sad loser for the guy who's 10 years ago we were comparing to Tony Stark. The guy's name is just mud now. You're the richest sad baby boy loser that's ever walked the planet.
And are you going to keep using Twitter?
Of course.
I was looking into alternatives this morning. I really do think I really think things like this will kill the platform. Like it'll
probably kill it.
People just won't want to be on here anymore. It'll just be death by 1,000 cuts. And over a long enough period of time, people will just get sick of this shit and want to go elsewhere. I really don't think it's sustainable. Yeah.
I'm already seeing because ever since it changed to we're just going to give you random shit on top of who you follow rather than just who you follow.
Yeah, you got 600 tweets,
absolute garbage.
But 200 of them are going to be about crypto AI, fucking weird advertisers that we've inserted into your fucking feed that nobody asked for.
Yeah, no, the only feature of Twitter that's really shitting me at the moment is now I no longer get to see if whether or not something that's appearing in my feed is appearing there because someone I follow liked it.
Yes, I hate that.
Because I don't know if you guys have this with your partners, but at the end of the day, we like to show each other the harvest of social media content craziness that we've accumulated over the day to be like, look at this funny video I found, look at this meme. Like, these are the things I've collected throughout the day. And I'll be like, oh, did you see this? And my fiance will say, well, yeah, that I liked that earlier. That's probably why you saw it. I'm like, well, I didn't know. And now I feel like an asshole. So yeah, that's a feature they turned off.
But so much for free speech absolutism. Like the whole thing of comedy's now available on Twitter again, sucked in libtards and the whole thing is just but you got to pay if you want to actually see it.
Free speech costs $8.
Free speech is $7.99 a month, baby. Cough up.
Maybe it's good. Maybe we should all get off, the socials and just go live in the wilderness and
go live in the wilderness.
Sit around the campfire and rather than you showing memes to each other, you can show each other something else.
Yeah. No, I think let's go back to the original Twitter where the sharing of completely unsubstantiated political ideals and terrible jokes and all that in a very loud public sphere. The pub, which is where I'm due to go later tonight.
No,
so let's roll.
No, don't make me go outside. I don't want to go. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it seems like he's ruining the thing that he paid $44 billion. It'd just be easier if he bought the place and then burnt it down. It would be less painful if he just set the servers on fire, just shut it down and just walked away.
On insurance.
Yeah, claim it on insurance. It's a nice $1 billion company. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Well, I think we've come to the end of our discussion of Elon Musk. And we'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for coming. And George, please chime in at any point.
Thanks for listening.
The exit. Yeah, thank you.
To Unnatural Selection. We have been, we are, and we always will be the Unnatural Selection Podcast. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the social media that exist for now. At our handle, Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and motherflippin' TikTok. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram while they're still around at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
You can not follow me on Twitter ever. That's the end of my sentence.
Don't act like you're above it.
I'm above it, George.
You're not above it.
I'm
you just
above
don't. You can't read. That's what it is. That's why you prefer Instagram. It's just because you.
Nah, he refuses to be on Twitter. He was banned from Facebook. Instagram's all he's got left.
I don't actually use Instagram. I only use Facebook now.
You're desperate for it. You had to sign up again. You got blocked, and then you couldn't just handle not being on it. You had to create a new account.
You're like everyone's bigoted aunt. You're just only on Facebook.
I know. I'm exactly that. Guess what? All the posts I see are people's bigoted aunt.
Oh, God.
They're just minion memes about how can't we just shut up about Invasion Day?
It's you just seeing Nana Judy posting about Pauline Hanson and Senator Antic.
I don't want to say that's completely accurate, but my grandmother does share some stuff sometimes, and I'm like, interesting opinions.
Content for the show. Thanks for listening, guys. I love your faces, and we will see you next week.